Well, hello everyone. Another Sunday, August 6, 2017. I'm telling you, time is flying. Someone had said that if you're feeling this sense of speeded up time, maybe we're getting closer to something. All I know is that it is speeding by. So this week we have got a lot of stories that are definitely going to flat just make you feel like it's getting weird out there. And you know what? It is getting weird out there. And then you're going to have some stories where you're just going to say, I'm not swallowing this stuff. All right, so let's get to it. So our first story is from the files. They wouldn't do that. So it looks like the Australian government has gotten the old proverbial hand caught in the cookie jar. For it seems, ladies and gentlemen, that the so-called conspiracist right of claiming that, hey, the governments of the world have been manipulating the weather data. When, listen, for the last 2 years, I can pull up article after article that was most likely sponsored by some government agency that were trying to do their best to manipulate the data, trying to convince the world that, oh, it's getting hotter. It's getting hotter. And those of us who were looking at the real data were saying, whoa, wait a minute. Where do you see this incredible hyper increase in temperatures globally? Because the data is not saying that. Yes, the data is showing that there are, in fact, parts of the globe that are experiencing extreme heat. But conversely, there are those regions that are experiencing extreme cold. Now, I live here in Colorado, and I can tell you we're in the middle of August. We should be really hot. This next week, we're going to be in the low 70s. So, that's like, almost an 18, 17 degree Fahrenheit difference. So to this story here, what they found out was that it was the Australian government itself that were going in and changing the data and then releasing it to the public, passing it off as though this is the real thing. Is this not fake news, right? Listen, if you were a private citizen with a private company that did this, they'd throw your ass in jail. But this is how it is with government officials. They can break the law and absolutely perpetrate a fraud on a global scale and say, oh, well, hey, we got caught, our bad. So that just tells you right there, you cannot take at face value what a government reporting agency is putting out. And then for a company, let's say a private research firm, nonprofit, et cetera, well, you got to follow the money. Because when they come out with these things like from NOAA and NASA trying to say, oh, yes, we can completely validate that this is in fact happening worldwide. No. Liar, pants on fire. You can't prove anything because the minute you let the real data out, we got a problem. Maybe it's not global warming, folks. Maybe it is, in fact, global cooling. So there you go. Kind of just puts the old water on the old campfire. Guess what? Governments manipulating weather data. All right, let's get on to our next story. Now, this is from the Waking Times. what a leading psychologist knows about demonic possession. So what's your opinion? Is it real or is it not? Is it a psychosis or is it in fact an extraterrestrial taking possession of a human body? Because you can't say that they're demons. Demons is a term that may imply a number of different things, right? I mean, seriously. I've been researching it for years, and I can tell you I have a myriad of different definitions that would say what a demon is. But I kind of look at it like this. If you're not born right here on Earth, that means typically you have to be born by a human woman, female. That qualifies you and gets you into the club. And there are no other back doors. Anyone else that tries to come in through the back door anyway else is a fraud. So what is it? Do you think that this thing really is a phenomenon? Because I'm reading more and more about this. And what this story is, and you really should read this, because if you want to have some of those things that where the hair kind of stands up in the back of your neck, right? This is a story that, well, you'll find to be suit the bill, so to speak. The bottom line of it is that the Catholic Church is having more and more of requests for exorcists. And this is a psychologist from New York City, and you can actually read the article of how he was looking at this merely from a clinical position. But yeah, pretty strange, is it not? All right, here's another one. Now, I got to tell you, you folks are really going to like this. So you ever wondered what happens when lightning hits water? Check this out, seriously. Is that not just incredible? Let's watch that again one more time. Wow. Told you. I often wondered what happens, if lightning hits out in the ocean, right? Well, guess we found out our answer on that one, didn't we? Yes, we did. That's cool. All right, here's another story that I found interesting. Since I've been involved in technology, which goes back many decades, I can still remember the days when, 256 K was for a computer. Big deal. And today, where storage devices and internal storage drives are incredible. Well, here we go. 330 terabytes of uncompressed data into a tiny cartridge. There it is right there. Now, this is incredible. The record was 201 gigabytes. Now we're talking 330 terabytes. And what does this mean? Well, I can tell you in the next 10 years, the only limitation that our portable devices have is the amount of storage. and storage that, for the most part, has to be compressed. And that's what fits into your cell phone, your tablets, your laptops. And obviously, the larger the device, the greater the capacity for storage, but also you trade off in heat, right? Well, this is 330 terabytes of uncompressed data. Now, I can tell you, when I look at particular applications, new algorithms, integrating AI, predictive programming, what my limit has been was my ability to store data and to be able to have access to that data in an instantaneous, real-time, virtual basis, right? Well, this does it. So, again, we're learning. And this has to do, obviously, you can see right up there from the particles, nano-based technology. And this is incredible, folks. It will not be that long before we'll have the equivalency of the human brain merely on the back of some portable device. Weird. All right. Here we go. Been wanting to live forever? Well, I can assure you this, there are those who have the resources, meaning money. There are those boutique labs now that are plentiful, that they are working feverishly to be the first one that actually has the elixir of eternal youth. And it's coming. It's been the pursuit of mankind since the day that our species was cursed. Our species used to have the ability of the longevity gene. And although you don't hear a lot talked about the longevity gene, it's there. But the odd thing is how it's been turned off. Well, as we have continually to evolve, as we continue to expand in understanding consciousness, we're finding out some things. And now, I think that we're within 20 years, maybe less, of actually being able to come in here. And they actually get into this right here. They talk about how nature threw a wrench into the classical theory of aging. In a technical tour de force, a team led by Dr. Chai from the Albert Einstein College of Medicine pinpointed a critical source of aging to a small group of stem cells within the hypothalamus, an ancient brain region that controls bodily functions such as temperature and appetite. Like fountains of youth, these stem cells release tiny fatty bubbles filled with mixtures of small biological molecules called microRNAs. With age, these cells die out, and the animal's muscle, skin, and brain function declines. Do you see where this is going? Could you imagine that you could say, in the next 20 years, and you reach your optimum peak, which with men is 18, with women later into their 20s. Now, if we had the ability to turn these genes back on, why, you could be 2,000 years old before you would hit your maximum, if then. It's not science fiction anymore, folks. It's the real deal. Think about it. All right, like this is under the files, duh, really? Stop children binging on social media during holidays, parents urge. I'm shocked. I mean, who would come up with such propaganda? But seriously, folks, this is getting out of hand. It really is. I mean, it's like we all complain that we're not close enough. So we develop technology that's designed to bring us closer, but it ends up separating us. Quite the dichotomy, is it not? So here's the deal. When you start having newborns, and I literally mean newborns, and you are putting them under the glow of that ever seductive electromagnetic screen, you're damaging them. It will come out. Mark my words on this. That what we bathe ourselves in 24/7 today, in this electromagnetic soup we call Wi-Fi, and what it's doing to us, not only physiologically, but the impact it's having on the brain and the normal development for emotions, and I could just go on and on, health. So they're coming to the conclusion, well, gee, this is not really helping our children. Really? I guess I should be glad in one aspect, right? And applauding that parents are coming to this epiphany. But unfortunately, I think all too often, the wisest of counsel so often falls on the deaf. Anyway, I'll leave the link. I'm sure you've all heard this one. NASA looking for that planetary protection officer. I think it's interesting that we are evolving to the point, I think on a collective conscious level, that now the powers to be, however you want to frame this, I mean, all of us internalize it a little differently in our cores, but the one who is the wizard behind the curtain, who's pulling all the levers, that eventual disclosure is going to have to be made. And seriously, I think at this point, all those algorithms that are listening to all the videos, here's the deal, governments, we already know. I mean, it's going to be like going, really? You're telling us just now? We figured this out about 30 years ago. But anyway, it's a great paying job, nearly $200K a year, not bad. So if you apply, let me know. Love to hear about it. Let's go on. Well, you want to live forever. We just talked about stem cells, but now apparently there is a major breakthrough in cryogenic freezing. Now, I have seen this enough and done my own small-scale experiments myself, and it is remarkable how insect life has the ability to be frozen for very long periods of time and then reanimate themselves. Now, we're dealing the same thing on a cellular level. And, listen, I can remember decades ago the hope of what cryogenics would bring. I think maybe one day they will. I think, however, we're going to advance further on the genetic side of the equation that we may never crack the code on the cryogenic side, which is a shame because the very illnesses that these people froze themselves hoping for a future cure probably never realized that that cure could have been within probably many of them of their lifetimes. Who knows? But nevertheless, another story that I find quite fascinating on that. This next one, I have to just say, really? How many studies does it take that we are sleep deprived? And yet, there are yet more and more studies on the studies that were studying the initial data points to begin with. Yeah, we are sleep deprived. I think, again, it has to do with the story I was just telling you about. When we bathe ourselves in this 24/7 electromagnetic soup, I think this is just part cause and effect. But anyway, it's a good story. It just kind of covers the basics again. But again, it's just the fact that, really, we all know this. Let's find out how we can get ourselves unattached so we can find out what sleep is again without the necessary of drugs. Now, here's something. Great website called nextgov.com, by the way. If the FBI has your biometrics, it doesn't have to tell you. Boy, if this not 1984 or what? Yeah. I'll leave the article, but don't forget the eclipse. Those of us in North America and those of y'all who are out will take pictures. They'll be live anyway. Make sure, if you can, to be a part of this, folks. Really. That's all I'm going to say. Get out there. Experience what our ancient ancestors knew. And particularly if you're in the path of totality. Whoa. More to it than you realize. Now, this is a great article. This is on theatlantic.com. So it's now hitting more and more mainstream press that, you know, these smartphone devices, maybe aren't as good for us as we had thought. I mean, convenience is one thing, right? But convenience at a cost. I don't know how smart that is. I really don't. And here's the deal, folks. This article says that we have already passed the tipping point. We have already crossed the precipice of the millennials down. That they are mentally incapacitated. They lack the social interactions that would be for the baby boomers. And if you carry this equation forward, it has some dire consequences for society as a whole. Not good. I encourage you to read the article. I'll leave the link. But many of you probably already know this. I have done so many stories on this that this is fundamentally rewiring us. We know that the greatest generation, those were the World War II vets, their brain patterns and brain neurosynaptic pathways are different than the millennials. And far different now for those kids that are just now entering into the public education system, 5 years old. I don't know what it means down the road, but I don't like the early telltale signs, as they would say. All right. I think this is a perfect segue from the previous story I just did. I don't know what's happened, but this is the kind, and I read stories like this, and I'm sure you do too, of just this. I read about an 11-year-old who got electrocuted with her iPhone in the bathtub. I mean, it's like they no longer have any sense, much less common sense. And we've got to ask ourselves, as a species, what's going on here? Because this child was never the life force cut off so quickly at such a very young energy level. And it's sad. It really is. And I'm bringing this story out because those of you who understand where thought is, this is one of the projects that we need to begin to think about. We could have the brightest generation coming up, but something is not connecting. Do you understand what I'm saying? And we've got to change this. This is not this is not an education issue. This is a consciousness issue. Now, at 8 years old, a child is at that stage where they are learning about consequences. But however this child got to this point where all cognitive connecting points left, I don't know. But we need to think about this, folks, as a species. This is nuts. All right, I did that story earlier about when the experts need an expert right in the demonic area. Well, here is the story, and this one will freak you out, about some of the stories about these, I don't know, these demonic possessions. Do I believe that there is such a thing as demonic possession? Well, I know this. I know that evil exists. I know spirits exist. I know life entities, sentient life, exist beyond this temporal place that we're at right here. Now, how that happens, if you just want to get onto a scientific level, this would be a great discussion to have. In fact, I might actually put this out in one of our future discussions, maybe with Jeff. Because when you start to think about how an alien life force can take possession of you, that's kind of the question, isn't it? But anyway, hey, check this story out. You'll find out where the movie The Exorcist came from. All of these are true stories, documented, and it's just really just comes to tell you then, if this is the manifestation of evil, right? The question is, how does it happen? Let me know your comments. All right, folks, well, I'm going to keep this to 30 minutes. There were a number of other stories, but they'll just have to get in a little bit later. Just be kind to one another more than ever, and we'll see you then next Sunday.